Hey, metalheads, this is Slammer
and Jammer of Brute Forcz, and you're listening to Interactive
Wrestling Radio.
All right.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Hey guys, long time no see. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com and YouTube. Today we have a special treat for you. It's Brute Forcz, Slammer and Jammer. You might remember that from the Global Wrestling Federation, Memphis Wrestling, Independent Circuit, but they have a new record out right now. Speaking of butts, they have a single out right now called Fat Ass Girl. So be sure and YouTube that after you're done watching this interview. The EP is available now on Amazon. The original CD, released 3 years ago, is also available on Amazon. Pick it up. Slip Trick Records are the guys who set this interview up, so be sure and support those guys. And like I said, jump on Amazon.com and purchase your copy of Brute Forcz self-titled EP, available right now. After the interview, Patrick and I will join you for a brief wrestling discussion, talking a little bit about the Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero storyline, and a little bit more of other things, the draft coming up, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a good hodgepodge, short podcast after our interview. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next time, right here on Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho of Fozzy, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview. And remember, we are huge rock stars.
Here we are right here back on Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is a tag team from the Global Wrestling Federation days who just put out a new record, a new EP, if you will. They are the heavy metal duo known as Brute Forcz, Slammer and Jammer. Guys, you with me?
Yes. How's it going? James, what's up, brother?
Good to have you on the phone, guys. Well, I got to tell you, I was really excited. I was on the Internet about a month ago, and I popped on to Sleaze Rocks, and I saw the post that former wrestlers Brute Forcz have a new song out. Now, I got to be honest with you guys. I grew up a GWF fan. I knew about you guys. I did look you up in recent years, recent being probably 2008, to see what you were up to, and saw that you were wrestling-wise inactive. So I was very excited to see that you're active and doing stuff. How did you guys decide to finally really record music?
Long story. Back out of high school, my brother and I got into a band, even before we started wrestling. And we were playing instruments and making music, and one thing led to another, and we had an opportunity to make a decision, either wrestler or playing a band. And everybody said, "Oh, you guys look like wrestlers. So we went with the wrestling route.
You went the wrestling route, but you did the rock star gimmick, which is a cool crossover.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then we wrestled for a while, for about 15 years, and then a little while back, we just decided that we wanted to go ahead and continue with music because we're heavy metal guys, and it has a lot of similarity to wrestling and the physicality and the aggressiveness and things like that. So we started the band, and we had to take a little bit of time off, but we're back. We had the last 3 years off for a few things, but we're back, and we do have a new EP out. It's a 4-song EP, and it was produced by Bill Matroyer, who actually has worked for the first couple of Slayer albums, and he's actually produced and worked with Wasp and people like that. And then we also had Rowan Robinson on the guitar, and he used to play with Dio. He actually got picked up. Yeah, he got picked up with Dio when he was 17 years old. By the way, amazing guitar player. If you get our EP, you'll hear the leads. They're not like people today. We actually play leads on our songs. So some songs we have 2 leads, but we used to be in a band, and we went into wrestling, and now we're back into music again.
Very cool. That's very
so
cool.
That's the quickness of the quick part of a long story.
You know, that works. And I don't think there's been a group of guests that really fits this show better than you guys. Like I was telling you guys off the air, we never had Roddy Piper on the show. I almost did, but we had Randy Piper on from Wasp, and, you know, that kind of fits. I'm kind of known as the heavy metal wrestling interviewer guy, so you guys certainly are in good company here. All right, all right, you're in good company. So I got some questions about wrestling, and then, of course, we'll get back to music. You piqued my interest talking about Mr. Robertson, formerly of Dio. I saw him when he played with Dio, so that's pretty cool that he worked with you guys. My question is basically going to be about the Global Wrestling Federation, and it piqued my interest in our conversations off the air via email. You had mentioned that when you were in the GWF, you were getting set for a title run, and I think that was clear by watching it on the show, and the rug got pulled out from under you. What happened there? Was it just the fact that Pedicino left, or what was the situation there that led to you guys basically disappearing and amongst a whole lot of other guys that also left seemingly around the same time?
Yeah, you know, it's just like any other business. There are groups that run certain things, and they have their own ideas, and other people have their own ideas. And we'd work with Joe. Joe's a really good guy. He gave us our break in Georgia All-Star Wrestling. And we'd worked with him and worked really well with him. And he had brought us up, and we had talked to him before about going to Global. And he thought we were ready to make that next big step. So we went to Global, and we were going to be groomed to be the next tag team champions. They put us with they were getting ready to set us up with a guy. I really don't remember his name. He had long hair. He was kind of an English kind of looking guy. And he was going to be our manager because he was also, he was kind of a producer for bands, so it fit what we were doing at the time. And then we walk in one day and found out that Joe's no longer there, and Skandor Akbar, who I believe has since passed away, just really didn't care for us that much. Yeah, we're pretty blunt about stuff. He didn't care about us that much. He just had his own guys that he wanted. So the truth be known that when Pedicino left, we weren't Texas guys. We were Atlanta, Georgia guys, so, you know, it was over for us in Global at that time, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured, because there was a lot of guys that left around that time, and frankly, the product took a big turn for the worst at that point anyway, so it makes a lot of sense. We talked a little bit about... Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks for saying that, because we thought the product kind of went a little south once we and a couple other guys left, too. He was bringing in, you know, new guys and with good looks and different kind of things on not just the usual. They had their usual same look. So yeah, it kind of dropped off. We were disappointed. We like Texas. It's a good place, great fans.
Well, I was going to actually ask you guys. You guys, I see that you play a lot of shows in the LA area, and I got to tell you, I'm not an LA kind of guy, but if there's a place that I feel at home anywhere in the world, it's sitting at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. I love that place, and every time I go to LA or anywhere near that, I make a point to stop by there. So I see you guys playing a lot of those shows, and some of that dirty, gritty feel is always attributed to the Sportatorium, which is where obviously the GWF was filmed. Did you guys enjoy performing in that legendary venue?
Oh yeah, hey, it's Slammer. How could you not? You know, it's got all the heritage, all the history. You know, the people that were before us that, you know, put in time and effort and made their names and their careers out of that building. The fans were right there. They're up close and personal. So, I mean, they asked a lot of you, and you had to give a lot back to them. You know, so it was really a really phenomenal place to go and a phenomenal place to be at the time we were there.
Very cool. Very cool. And either of you guys can answer this one, but we talked a little bit about the heavy metal gimmick that you guys did, which obviously I thought was legit because I couldn't find any music up until fairly recently that you guys had put out. So obviously you guys had the look of a rock star. But there's been other people who have done the rock star gimmick. Chris Jericho legitimately does both. He does his own band as well as plays it on TV and so forth. And you mentioned that they kind of go together. What about wrestling and heavy metal kind of tie in together to you guys, other than the spandex?
Well, I don't know about the spandex anymore, but you know what it is? It's, you know, you're a performer. You know, whether it's a wrestling ring or if it's a stage, you know, Brute Force has always been a performing, you know, team. That's what we do. We perform. Playing in front of a live audience, playing music, and then being in the wrestling ring with a live crowd, it's an adrenaline rush. You know, it just makes it so much better when you can perform at a high level, like you were talking about the building, the sportatorium. You know, the crowd anticipates and they want so much from you. It doesn't matter if it's wrestling or if it's the music. You as the performer, you want to give all that you can. And music and wrestling go hand in hand, especially metal. You know, they're both fast, aggressive, they're loud, they're in your face.
Absolutely. And that is what you guys profess to be, you know, kick-ass heavy metal that's in your face. And I've heard the EP, and I like it. I like what you guys are doing, and you guys now are opening up for some of my favorite bands. We already talked about, you know, guys like Randy Piper, but you opened for LA Guns. You mentioned, I believe you said you opened for Anthrax. From you guys being in your position as a band that's starting to really start to expand outwards, what is it like for you guys to open up for national bands that have been around for a while that are really virtually household names?
Well, it gives us great exposure because those are mainly old school, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't like to put anything under a category, but they're old school heavy metal fans. They like that certain style, and that's the style that we grew up on, that aggressiveness, that, you know, chop of the guitar, that grinding axe kind of sound. So it really helps us get in front of fans that we feel will like our music also, having those fans listen to us. So we don't really get to interact with the bands that much. It doesn't work like that out here. But, again, it helps us to get in front of good fans that we like, that we think will like our music and help us push ourselves forward down the road, which is what we're trying to do in the first place.
Very cool. Has that translated? Has the fact your guys' history translated to the audience? Like, has any of the guys in the crowd said, hey, I know those guys. They used to be wrestlers?
Yeah, it has. Plus, we look like we are. There are some wrestlers that don't look it. Like if you walk through the airport, you wouldn't even notice somebody. But if we walk through the airport, we look like we're wrestlers, and that's
you
that's
haven't changed very much.
No,
you guys haven't changed very much at all. Yeah,
so, we've only gotten better looking. So we are able. The people recognize us, or they read that we're wrestlers, but they really like the music. So it all kind of it's all good. You know, it's all the same kind of thing. It's that aggressiveness that we had in the bands, aggressiveness that we had in the ring. So, yeah, some people recognize us for that, but most people, honestly, that's kind of secondary. They really like the music.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to jump around a little bit because I've been a little bit off track on my questions here. My next question after the global question was going to be, we recently had on Del Wilkes, which I believe Slammer wrestled in a one-on-one match, the Patriot. And he talked about being in Memphis, and he didn't much like working Memphis. He said it was basically a misery. You guys worked in Memphis for a little while in 1993. Heard some romance stories about working there, and I've heard some horror stories. What was your guys' experience working in the USWA?
Well, actually, I did wrestle the Patriot more than once. He's a super guy. And he's pretty much spot on about Memphis. Memphis is a great place. Again, the fans are phenomenal, and the boys in the locker room, they're great, and they're pretty much straight shooters. They'll tell you, and they know that the guys that run the league don't necessarily have the wrestler's best interest in mind. So sometimes they're willing to sacrifice a good show just to appease what they want. I don't know I'm expressing it the right way or not. I'm trying to sugarcoat it, I guess.
Yeah, here's the true story. We wrestled there in a weekend. And when we got there, we were so popular. And I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you the way it was. We were different. We were young guys with long hair that did heavy metal. Everybody else had another gimmick. That was our gimmick. So they stuck us with their number one manager. We get stuck with all these manager guys. We wanted to keep the beautiful bar because we prefer that kind of person. But they stuck us with a smaller kind of, I forgot his name, short, kind of dumpy guy because he was their number one manager. So we did Friday, we did a Saturday, and then we did a Sunday at the Coliseum, or their main place where they used to wrestle at. And I remember Wolfie D. I don't know if you know him, but I remember him and Jamie Dundee. Wolfie D. and Jamie Dundee at the time were tag team. And after our match, they came over to us, and I remember Jamie Dundee coming over to us and goes, "Let's see, you guys got a great look. You can work. The fans hate you. You got everything going for you, so you won't be here very long." And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Well,
my brother said not to say that, but
you guys
said not to say that. So. But I don't care. I know that the Jarretts run that. And when we first got there, we talked to Gary Jarrett. Is that his first name? The older?
Gary Jarrett is the older. And Jeff is the son, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And when we came in to sign our contracts and talk to him, when we came in, he looked kind of surprised. And we were like, "What are you surprised about?" And he goes, "Well, someone said that you guys were like 5'6" and 7, and we're like 6'1", 6'2". So somebody had, already given some negative information about us, and it kind of got back to him, and he was surprised that we were as big as we were. So that's just kind of how Memphis was. So I agree with Del Wilkes, or the Patriot, on that one. I didn't have a good experience in Memphis, but the fans are really, really good there. And if you wrestle there and you're liked there, that's a good place to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, it's no more. They closed up shop after a fiasco that ended up with an FBI investigation in '97. So that shows you kind of how they were run based on ethics.
What happened?
Basically, I'll tell you what James Beard, who I think you probably remember, he was the referee in Global, told me. He basically was working there, busting his ass to try to put on a good show as one of the representatives, and apparently Lawler and Jarrett sold the territory to some money mark guy who in turn tried to screw them over. And long story short, they tried to run the territory into the ground so they could buy it back from him at cost. And it didn't work, and then they all ended up in federal court because apparently the guy they thought was a money mark was a con man, and it just became a big mess. So yeah, that ended up closing the USWA as we know it. So that's the end of the USWA.
Yeah, welcome to that. That's
yeah, they tried to book it so bad that they would make money by buying it back, that's pretty intense. That's intense to sabotage your own product that way. But what are you going to do? So looking at your guys' history, you guys retired, if I'm correct, in 2000 from the ring. Am I correct in that?
2003.
Yeah, out here in LA, there was still a lot of wrestling available in different organizations all up and down the state. So we did a lot of appearances with other organizations, indie leagues. So we did a lot of run-ins. We also worked a lot of the Indian casinos because that's where they would put the shows on. And we would wrestle. We wrestled pretty much until 2004 or 5. And then just other opportunities came along, and that was pretty much it.
No major injuries or anything like that? You just decided it was time to not do that anymore, to change, do something else?
We actually came out here to act, and we started getting successful in acting. So it was
cool.
Just better for us to do that.
So I apologize that I did not know that. I probably should have done better research.
No. Yeah, unfortunately for us, we're jack of all trades and master of nothing.
Well, that's not entirely true. I've heard the record, and it sounds pretty good. And in some YouTube searches, I came across some of your videos, and you guys live up to the sleazy aspects of Los Angeles. I'll give you that. You had, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ava Devine in the video, as well as Missy Martinez, one of them being one of my favorite adult actresses. Not that I've watched much of that, but I'll own up.
Let's be honest, that's why we invited her there.
So you guys did have a plan.
Which one was your favorite?
Ava Devine.
Oh, there you go.
She's great, man.
I don't think she says no to anything, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, just to give you a little hint, we had to keep reminding her this was a regular video shoot, not an adult video shoot.
Oh man! So I was actually going to ask you, was it your guys' call to choose the talent, if you will, for your video shoots?
Yes.
I'll tell you a funny story. When we were putting the video together, we're at the location to shoot. We're both real busy, and we didn't hire a third person to come in and basically do all the networking and introducing and making sure that this was getting done and that was getting done. So when Ava walked in, I went over to introduce her, myself to her and let her know that I was one of the people that's putting it together along with my brother. And before I had a chance to say anything to her, she grabbed my hand, stuck it on her boob, and then reached down and grabbed my crotch. And the first thing she said to me, "Are you the guy that I'm blowing today?" Well, it wasn't on the calendar, but it is now.
So I take it you're right. She did not know that it was not for an adult video shoot then.
No, actually, I think she still knew it. I don't think she gives a damn.
Well, there you go.
That's what she does. She's a professional, and she's there, and that's what she does.
She's committed to her work.
Exactly, yes. She's very good at it, too.
I believe it. I'm a little jealous. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if you watch the video, this is Slammer, the drummer. You'll see a scene where my back is turned, and she's back there with me. She's shaking something, but it's not my hand. And it's actually in the video.
Wow. Is that the nugget you kept in there just for your own knowledge, or?
Exactly.
So you guys are now paired up with Slip Trick Records, and Slip Trick Records, I got to give them credit. And I've contacted a lot of people, and sometimes they say, "Sure, I'll set you up with an interview," and I'll never hear from them again. But they have been very proactive towards making sure that this happened today. What has your experience been like so far with those guys as your label?
Well, I'm sorry. Let me just step back 1 second, talking about the sleaze and the videos. I'm just trying to figure out, when did heavy metal music lose its masculinity? I'm tired of seeing guys playing, 5 guys playing their video in an empty warehouse or a rock quarry out in the middle of nowhere. As men, we all like to chase tail. That's what it's about. It's about drinking and going to the bar and picking up chicks. So when did that ever become a bad thing? And now going back to Slip Trick.
Yeah, I'll answer that question. In the 90s, it seemed like everything fun ended in the 90s. That's just my opinion. Anyway.
Slip Trick's really cool. I talked to Carlo a lot, and they actually did a lyric video for our song "Fat Ass Girls." Have you seen it?
I have seen it, and I was going to ask who that girl was, because she was interesting as well.
Yeah, that's all them doing that. We'll put our own video out soon with Fat Ass Girls with more porn pics in it, just to give you an update or let you know what's coming. But Slip Trick Records has been really cool. Got us a lot of exposure to Europe, which is where we're trying to go. Just to be honest with you, our music is really more popular across other parts of the world than here. Obviously, we'd love to keep playing here and get on some type of tour here. But the goal for us is to get on tour and play more in Europe to get our brand of music out and who we are. So they've been really good to us so far. They've done everything that we've asked, and they've helped promote us. And we're working with them to try to get a tour going to Europe. It takes a little time to get that done, but we've only been with them since really the middle of March. So it hasn't really been that long. But, they're really cool, really good to work with. Carlo, great guy, and we really do appreciate him working with us on that video, because that was all their work. And like the song says, if you like Fat Ass Girls, that girl is probably perfect for that.
She definitely was. Yeah, it caught my eye. Usually there's lyric videos and there's like, you know, a car driving down the street and there's headlights or something in the background and it's like, you don't pay attention to it. But that one you're like, whoa, what the hell's going on there? So that certainly caught your attention.
Yeah, that was the whole point. So, yeah, that's what my brother said. When did we did that Sex Machine video with Ava Devine.
Right.
And if you have your opinion, that's fine. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if you're a hater or whatever. I can deal with that. That's not the issue. But I looked down on one of the comments, or one or two of the comments, and they were from guys going, this is disgusting, or who are these girls and stuff like that. And we're thinking, man, come on. I don't care if it's 80s, 90s, 2000s. When did heavy metal not become sexually oriented and kicking ass and drinking and just having a good time? Are we that big of vaginas to have that now? So,
well, I
have to beat that out.
Yeah, well, no, you could swear. I don't mind. You know, in all honesty, if you think about it, those chicks became stars back in the day. Tawny Katane and Bobby Brown and all these ones that were on the videos, doing not much different than what they do in your videos. You know, they became big stars from appearing in those videos. So why is it not okay now?
I agree. We totally agree. So we're trying to bring some of that back a little bit. So.
Yeah, I agreed, and I certainly like that. So I'm going to plead ignorance for a second here. Which one of you guys is singing when we hear the music? I'm going to assume Jammer.
Yes, it's me.
I can tell. You have the voice. You have the. I definitely can tell the by your speaking voice that you're definitely the singer. So who do you model your vocal style after?
Just one guy, Lemmy of Motorhead.
Oh man. That was a dark day a few months ago. I'll tell you that. In this household, I had to console my wife. She was in floods of tears. I had to console her. And
you like Motorhead?
Oh, she's a huge Motorhead fan. Even a bigger Motorhead fan than I am. Man, that was an awful.
It was not a good day.
No, it was not.
I pretty much model everything that I do after Motorhead and Lemmy because. Quite honestly, when we tried to start a band, we were trying to get a cover band started, and we couldn't find anybody that could sing. And then back then, I didn't really, we were jocks. We didn't really hear that much of music or heavy metal music. And then one day, one guy who came over to audition for us as a singer, he said, I could probably do anything, but I can't probably go down as low as what Lemmy does on Killed by Death. And I'm going, well, what's that? And then I listened to Motorhead one song, and that's all I needed. So I'm a huge Motorhead fan, and that was a bad day. And I just got asked by somebody who we want to ever do a record with if we had a chance to have someone on a record. And we put, Lemmy, we can't obviously, but we would love to have Mickey D and
right,
Phil Campbell on our,
Right.
So Motorhead's a big influence on us. Wasp, Judas Priest, even Venom, Kiss, people like that, AC/DC, the mix of all that.
Absolutely. All of which is in my CD collection. So again, a good fit for our audio show. That's for sure. I was in Los Angeles as recently as literally 1 month ago, and you guys talked about your music being more popular overseas than there, and I'll tell you the truth, and this is not to make any enemies, but I went by the whiskey, and there was a sign out front that Joe Mantegna's daughter was going to be performing, and she's like, pop music. And I thought, man, where's the rock gone in this area? What is it about the United States that heavy metal and your brand of hard rock and heavy metal isn't reaching out, but overseas it is? Because I know a lot of the CDs I buy now are from bands from like Sweden, which you would never think would be a heavy metal place.
Yeah, it's gotten so bad, in our opinion, that the guys that would be death metal 10, 15 years ago, or even just a few years ago, are now the mainstream heavy metal, or that's what they try to call them now. I guess music changed a little bit when the 80s bands kind of got eliminated, except for a few bands like Judas Priest and people like that. They pretty much squashed all of them, and then no one's been able to make that kind of comeback. You had Motorhead and Judas Priest and the old guys like Iron Maiden and the established bands like that, AC/DC, but no one wanted to come back with anything similar to that. So when they squashed that, I guess no one's made kind of a comeback. I really don't like a lot of the music that's out now, because in some of these, it's kind of what you're talking about. There's not a lot of heavy metal. It's just a style that's aggressive. It's loud. It has a good lead to it. And I don't hear a lot of that. I hear a lot of guys singing. I can't understand a word to it. I hear a lot of songs.
The Cookie Monster vocals? Is that what you mean? The Cookie
exactly.
Monster?
I hear a lot of bands with no leads, and I'm thinking these kids are getting cheated because I don't care who you are. If you're a kid and a guy, you love to hear a good lead. You can go back to any point in time of history, and you like to hear the lead from whoever was the hot guitar player or players at that time. So I don't know why it's like that. I guess there's not a lot of bands to kind of continue that push or carry that moniker again. And there has to be some more to come out before I guess it will pick up. But I guess they've never lost that in Europe. You know, I really don't know. I've never been over there. I just know that our stuff is more popular for festivals and playing opportunities than it is here in the United States. And, you know, I kind of hope that changes. But it's funny that you mentioned that about LA because the fans out here for metal are really good. The problem is there's not enough clubs for us to play. And then everything is pay to play. And besides it being expensive to pay to play, you only get a 30-minute set. The equipment may not be as good as you want it. And when you're getting started, they stick you on the worst nights. I don't care if anybody says you're not going to draw 10 of your friends on a Tuesday night, you know, at 8 o'clock at night. It's just not going to happen. It's just, you know, you're friends. So you might get in there one time, but that's it after that. So unless you've got a continuous amount of family that can follow you around here, it's really hard for you to get anything decent out here. I guess they want you to be the entertainment. They want you to sell the tickets. They want you to bring your own equipment. And I guess they'll have us serve the drinks too, I guess. Bring the liquor, serve the drinks.
I saw a band you opened up for, LA Guns, a few years ago, and they played a pretty nice club out here in Arizona, but they said several times on the microphone, they said, I got to tell you, I'm so happy to be here tonight because last night we played a club and I never liked to say the letter S because every time I did, I got electric shock. And he said because the equipment there was so bad. So I think it probably speaks to what you guys are talking about in that respect.
Yeah, and then I think a lot of it has to do with the music. I'm not being negative to anybody because God bless you. I salute you if you're trying to do this. It's not easy. If you're in a band that's successful now, you know, good luck to you if you've done this before in the past. But all this music now is all the same for the heavy metal. Even though they call it death metal and all this other stuff, it's all lumping itself together and it's kind of run its course. If you see, you see a show with 5 of these bands, after about the second or third band, their 4th or 5th song, you've already heard that like 20 times. There's still 2 bands like that going to play the same kind of stuff. So I think everything's kind of melted together and it's all the same and there's no really good push that anybody wants to, at any clubs that want to have anybody else play, because there's nothing really different. So you've got to go to the gimmicks where we got a couple of bands with girls putting tape on their nipples and stuff like that. And it might be good music, I don't know, but that's just, you know, I understand the gimmick part from wrestling, but that seems to be what's happening now is we've got to have some kind of gimmick like that. So we're just hoping to be like kind of a go ahead.
I was going to say, well, gimmicks are not that new. I mean, Wasp used to throw raw meat at the people in the crowd, so they certainly had their gimmicks back in the day to get noticed as well.
Yeah, but at least they played heavy metal, so you know with it.
They sure did, yeah. Absolutely. Well, I've heard the record. I enjoy what you guys did, and like I said, as a guy who grew up a fan of you guys from wrestling, and this is predominantly a wrestling show, but I was really excited to see you guys active and doing stuff, and you know, I wish you guys nothing but the best. I loved your gimmick back in the day, and I love what you guys are doing. I think that it's certainly a necessary thing. I get in contact with the folks over in there in Sweden. I mean, the amount of bands that are coming out of Sweden right now, and even Italy. Even Italy's getting a lot of really good hard rock and heavy metal bands that you guys would certainly fit in the ilk of. You know, you mentioned festivals. They would be the places that would probably certainly welcome you guys to that kind of an audience where you're playing in front of 50,000 people instead of, 50 in Los Angeles.
Yeah, say that to Slip Trick next time you talk to them.
Well, man, I thank you guys enough. Is there anything at all that you guys want to say to your wrestling side of fans that might not have checked out your music just yet?
Other than, hey, we appreciate when you booed us. We appreciate it when you ran us out of the arenas. Because we've been chasing a lot of cities and a lot of places. We appreciate you guys for, taking the time to follow out who the wrestlers are and chase the bad ones and, do your part, because everybody has a part in wrestling, and your part was to be the over-the-top fan. So you guys did an awesome job. We really appreciate it. And if you get an opportunity, go check out Brute Forcz. And if you liked us when we wrestled, I know that you'll like our music.
Hate it so much that you go to iTunes.
Hate it so much.
Hey, this is Tiffany, and you're in the Epicenter.
The magic's in my head, I can't understand, but I still like my chances, and it doesn't really matter to me, I take my stand, but I still like my chances. Ow. No, 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 no.
All right, guys, we're back on Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with me right now is my co-host, Mr. Patrick Kelly. Patrick, are you there?
I'm doing all right, James. How are you doing?
It's been a while since we did one of these. I'm doing good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been, not much has happened in the world since then.
Oh, plenty has happened in the world.
It's been, there's everything's fine. Everything's calm, and nobody's wanting to kill each other. There's no race wars going on. We don't have a corrupt FBI. Everything's okay. We're good.
Alrighty, but
we're doing great.
You just did an interview apparently.
We just did. We did an interview with Brute Forcz, who is Slammer and Jammer. They were a tag team. For those wrestling fans out there who listen to our show, you know I got a soft spot for the GWF. And they were a tag team that worked there. They also worked Memphis. They also worked South Carolina territories as well as Southern California territories all the way up to about 2004 or so. Now, with that in mind, they had the rug, let's say the rug pulled out from under them from a couple different companies. They basically were told that because they were big and strong and over in Memphis, and their last name wasn't Jarrett or Lawler, that they were not going to go anywhere. And they were basically sent out of there for that reason. And in Dallas, Joe Pedicino, which is the rather round gentleman who was the original money man and mind behind the company, he left, and when he left, the new booker didn't like them, so that was that for them. So they had their opportunities on national television, never made it to WWE. Good guys, though, and we talked about their new record. They did music, so I thought it was a good fit for this show because everybody knows that I fit in as much as I can legally get away with of hard rock and heavy metal bed music in between the interview and the show. I especially did this before we were posting them on YouTube, and they yanked our stuff. So, but I still try to throw some stuff in there, and they're doing the heavy metal band, which was their gimmick, and their stuff is pretty darn good. They even had the guitarist from Dio, Ronnie James Dio, who's since passed away, obviously, but they've had his guitarist on there playing with them. The drummer is Slammer, the singer is Jammer, and they basically, for those who want to check them out, to give you an idea what to expect when you listen, think Motorhead. They sound a little bit like Motorhead. Maybe Motorhead with a little sleaze. A little like, well, let's put it this way. A portion of our interview was discussing Ava Devine. Do you know who that is?
I can tell from the name that it's probably a porn star.
Ava Devine is probably the most committed to her craft adult film actress there is. And she was in their video, and apparently they had to keep reminding her that you're supposed to fake it, not make it, during the filming of the video. So, yeah, it was an interesting interview, to say the least. And I think those who like our show probably are like hearing from these guys because they do have a history in wrestling, and those who like the music I play will probably enjoy hearing from them too. So thanks to those guys for checking it out. You can check out their record. It's out now. You can get it on Amazon. It's through Slip Trick Records, and check it out. And with that in mind, Speaking of unique things happening in wrestling, one of the few things that has happened that actually has caught my interest, and to their credit, it's happened on TNA Impact Wrestling, is the Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero final deletion match. Have you seen it?
Yeah, and I did. Let me start off by saying that regardless of how people may think about it, and reviews for this thing and the reaction to this thing is all across the board. Some people loved it, some people hated it, some people thought it was too goofy, some people loved that it was goofy. It's just the reaction's been all across the board. But regardless of how you feel about it, I got to give TNA major props for creating something that they were proud of, putting forth the extra effort to create something memorable, and ultimately make something that got them some buzz. I mean, people were talking about that match all day long before it aired. And it really kind of took over the internet for a while. So it was actually nice to see something related to the art form of wrestling kind of catch people's eye a little bit and even invoke strong opinions one way or the other. It was actually kind of a nice thing to see. Sometimes WWE is so big and so corporate that a lot of the times, a lot of the discussions about them are largely about just how big they are and what they're doing and what charities they do, and all that's all fine and dandy. But as far as like reviewing the actual art form, there isn't a whole lot of that in any kind of media. And I felt like the Will Ospreay Ricochet match from the New Japan tournament a couple months ago did that. That generated some buzz, and I felt like this match did that. It's just something that was created that was unique and different, and created a lot of debates and differing opinions, and TNA made it, and it turned out to be pretty good for them. It got them their highest rating on Pop TV, and a lot of people are still talking about it.
Well, evidenced by the fact that we are. Granted, we haven't done a show since then, but it's evidenced by the fact that we're talking about it, that at least it was different and interesting.
Now, what did you think of it?
Okay. Well, you've said it fairly clearly. Honestly, and this is going to sound like such a non-answer that it's like I should be a politician. I haven't made up my mind on it yet. And what I mean by that is I liked it in that it was interesting to me because it's not the way that things are usually presented. It kind of feels like they may have taken some elements of Lucha Underground with the cinematic
Oh, that was
approach.
clearly an inspiration, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of feels like they borrowed from that. But to do that on the TNA platform, which has a structure that has been their formula to some extent since the beginning, to import it into that formula where it's radically different is interesting to me. I'm not sure how it'll end. I can say that I enjoyed what I've seen so far, but I do get when people say, oh, that's too campy, or that's too this and that and the other thing. But at the same rate, I almost feel like those same people who are critical of it in that sense would be critical of it no matter what. And what I mean is, TNA is a damaged brand. You know, Matt Hardy's handle on Twitter is Matt Hardy brand, and Jeff Hardy's is Jeff Hardy brand. Well, the Impact Wrestling brand is damaged. And I almost feel like those who are vehemently against it have no ability to see past the fact that they've made some colossal mistakes. And even if they do something good, they're going to pan it just because of the mistakes they've made in the past.
Well, this will, speaking of guys who panned them in the past, do you know who loved the final deletion and actually recommended that people go out of their way to see it?
Mick Foley?
No, Lance Storm.
Lance Storm?
Yeah, he was raving about it on Twitter.
Really? See, I don't know. Yeah. I did not know that. And he's hard to please. Frankly, he's a bitter old son of a bitch. I like him, don't get me wrong, but he is a hard to please guy.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll give my thoughts on it. Personally, it was so bonkers and so off the wall that I kind of liked it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And some people are saying that it was unintentionally funny. I disagree. I think Matt Hardy is secretly brilliant. And this character that he's doing, he's totally doing it for laughs.
I think he's secretly... The way I've always looked at Matt, aside from the time that I called the Cameron Police Department to go to his house to make sure he hadn't killed himself, aside from that dark period in his life when he and Reeve were having trouble, getting arrested in a hotel room for beating the crap out of each other, and all that crazy stuff that happened. It sounds like it's behind them. I've always thought Matt was the kind of guy who was the psychologist of the two, and Jeff was the guy who could just do anything. You know, anything you wanted him to do physically, he would give it his best to give it to you. And Matt was the one who always had the better brain of the two. I guess that's probably more evident now with Matt putting together this thing, because TNA has not been shy about letting it leak that this is basically the brainchild of Matt Hardy. And look, it's doing well. Good for him.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned it. TNA is a damaged brand. They've been a damaged brand for years. I mean, they've been canceled from 2 networks in just as many years. They're on a much smaller network now, and they're not even getting half the audience that they were getting on Spike TV. They are a damaged brand, and for them to make something where they just completely swung for the fences and just let Matt Hardy do whatever the hell he wanted, they created something that was fun. Like, it was funny, it was creative and weird, and just so different from anything that you see in wrestling that it was actually really entertaining and memorable. Because when was the last time we saw something from TNA that was truly memorable?
Not really much. I mean, the only thing I could compare it to in recent times, where there was people coming out of the woodwork to talk about it, was the tell me if I'm pronouncing this right, Osprey, and Ricochet match from NJPW.
Yeah.
Other than
that match.
Yeah, other than that match where everybody was coming out to either say it was great or that it sucked, that's one of the few times, and it's good that it happened for TNA, and it didn't happen for one of WWE's many side projects like NXT or the Cruiserweight Classic or something like that. I'm glad it happened for a company independent of WWE. I got my concerns about TNA. I think that if they're gonna sell, which it sounds like is in the cards, that they might end up either selling majority share to somebody else or having a major investor or something along those lines. I would almost do like a WCW circa 2000 where everything
just
shuts
reboot
down.
The whole thing?
Yeah, shut it down for 2 weeks or a week or whatever, and completely resurface, replant it, scorched earth approach. Present it in a new way. Get rid of the letters. I mean, at this point, the letters TNA are redundant. It was a pun that nobody got.
Well, apparently, and I don't know if this is true, I heard that they went with the name TNA hoping that people looking for porn would order it by accident and drive up the buys. There's part of that. And if you saw the early TNA commercials, it was all Elektra. On the commercials for it was all Elektra, Francine, whatever the name was, I can't remember what she went by, BB, from WWE. They were all over the commercials for it, and all the cage girls and stuff. And that's what they went with before the show even aired as their promotional material. And then when they did start airing and they couldn't afford those girls anymore, they ended up just having a lot of the cage girls featured on it. So the TNA was to bring people in for that element, which was never really that heavily featured on the product. So it was kind of it was kind of a weird dichotomy where you're advertising this almost like you're advertising a WEW pay-per-view, and your product is basically like a continuation of WCW. So it was a weird dichotomy. I wouldn't have done it, and now I think that like we said, the brand is damaged. So if they were going to change it like they seemed like they were going to 3 or 4 years ago and change it to Impact Wrestling, now I would. It's debatable whether the name Impact Wrestling is damaged too, but I just scorch earth it, start over. You don't have to get rid of all the guys that are there. They got some good talent. They could bring a few more names in if they have the money to do so. Cody Rhodes is one they
that
just
I would
brought Moose in.
What's that? Moose,
They just brought Moose in.
I like Moose too.
I think it's a good pickup.
It's a very good pickup. Not sure how I like the idea that he's going to be some kind of a bad guy. I think that he was doing well as almost like a Goldberg character for ROH. But,
there's a guy that ROH kind of dropped the ball with. They didn't know where to go with him.
Like they had him really going hard, and then it kind of they did. It was probably about a year ago they started to really lose him off the rails.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's a good pickup for them. I think they should try and get Cody Rhodes and any of the other guys that WWE has just casted away.
I mean, look what they've done with EC3, who I think every time I look at that guy, I go, what did WWE not see in him? What did they miss?
Yeah, he's got the look. He's got a Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff body. He's a better promo than Orndorff was.
He's a better promo than most guys in the business.
He's just comfortable. He seems comfortable on the microphone, which is not necessarily true for a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, and for him it does. So, I don't know what they missed.
I don't know. They certainly missed the boat. Apparently, he and Vince had a joke going on backstage that Vince liked his hair or didn't like his hair or something like that. But but I don't know. I mean, if you're that close to be noticed by Vince McMahon, how do you end up released?
I don't know. Don't know.
Oh well. Well, the other thing going on right now is the draft, the WWE draft, and
the brand split is coming back. I'll be honest. I was not a huge fan of the brand split when they did it the first time because they never got to a point where both shows were good, and it just always felt like they divided their resources. And it always felt like you'd either have one really good show and one really shitty one, or two shitty shows and none of it was good. So they could never get to a point where both brands were self-sustaining, and I doubt they'll be able to do it here.
My biggest problem with it was it always seemed bastardized, to where they always were crossing the, whatever border was between the two of them. They were just crossing.
Oh, yeah.
And it just seemed to be like, all right, well, here's John Cena, he's a SmackDown guy, but he was on Raw almost every week. And it's like, then what's the point of even saying you have a split?
Right. When they, I think when they moved to the Raw Super Show and they just had SmackDown guys start showing up on Raw, that pretty much killed it.
Yeah, I think that they were done with it at that point. And that's when it kind of fizzled. It never had an official end date. It just kind of fizzled.
Yeah, it just kind of went away and they never talked about it.
Yeah. Pretend that never happened.
No, and I'll tell you one thing I'm not going to like. They're going to do what they did the first time. I have this fear that they're going to do what they did the first time. Anyway, they're going to split up all the tag teams. Because for those of you who remember when the brand split was done back in 2002, they annihilated their tag division. I mean, they split up everybody.
Even the Dudleys.
That it's like, the Dudleys, the Hardys were on the show that was opposite of the tag titles. They split up the APA, I think. No, that was a little later. But, no, they were split, actually. They were split the first time initially. So, yeah, they just completely destroyed their tag division.
To their defense, I think Ron Simmons was winding down at that point anyway, but still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it just that, so they did that. They basically killed the tag division. And then eventually you got to that point where you had two sets of tag titles, two world titles, two women's titles, and everything just got diluted and oversaturated, and I'm worried that they're going to do that again here.
And if there's two world titles and two women's titles and two this and that and the other thing, they all mean just a little bit less.
Right.
Because it's not like you're fighting for the one and only, you're fighting for the two win only, and that just doesn't sound as good.
No. Well, it's like having an AFC champion and an NFC champion and no Super Bowl.
That's right. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, you can throw baseball in there too and various other sports, but
don't talk about baseball.
My problem.
Don't talk about baseball.
I won't.
I'm mad, man. I'm really pissed off. If anybody's listening, that's a part of the Diamondbacks organization, and I think that's a far cry. Would you please fire Chip Hale, please? I mean, I don't understand it. The guy's on there like a chucklehead every time we lose. We lose like 10 in a row. Oh, it happens. It always happens. It shouldn't happen. And then we trade, right before the All-Star game, we trade our closer, who's the only guy in the goddamn bullpen who can actually pitch. And we met him, too. My wife and kid met him, and they got his autograph. And, man, he's gone. He's to the Red Sox now. Well, at least he might have a chance there.
Yeah, I
hate the Red Sox, but it's ingrained
in me.
We all hate the Red Sox. Yeah, I mean, it's ingrained to me. I'm from New Jersey. A lot of Yankee fans, even though I'm more of a Mets fan. You have to hate the Red Sox.
Yeah. I hate them because I'm an O's fan, and they're in our division, so.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, well, be on the lookout for Brad Ziegler. He's a good pitcher. He's a good closer.
Will do. But yeah, going back to the draft, one thing I hope they do with this, and again, here's hoping, I hope they turn SmackDown into like the experimental brand, and like they've got Shane McMahon running it, at least on TV, and the fans like him, so let's let him be kind of the beacon for change, and let's have SmackDown be a show that looks, it's produced, shot, and just produced differently than Raw is, and maybe book it differently, maybe adopt the NXT style of booking, which is have squash matches and promos and long build-ups to bigger matches. Let's have SmackDown kind of adopt that formula and see if it'll work on a mainstream level.
That would be good. Whether they do it or not, I don't know, but that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned something that interests me, and I'm always a big proponent of this. I like when shows look and feel different. And you're right. WWE they have a production quality that's expected, and it's the same across the board. And the shows look the same, they feel the same, and ultimately, after you watch a WWE show, a lot of times you feel like you've already watched that same show before because it's not fresh.
It all looks the same. Well, think about older shows that we would watch when we were kids. When they would go to a different venue, the venues would look different from each other.
That was, and I don't know why that especially was true for WCW. Like, there was a lot of venues that Nitro would go to, and I don't just mean the one that had the pool or anything like that. I'm talking about just a lot of different venues they go to. Like the audience was set up differently. It would look different, and it would feel different, and that was a cool kind of, oh, cool, they're in Grand Rapids, or they're in wherever they are this week, instead of it just being this WWE presentation where it could be in anywhere. They could be in the same venue every single time. You would never know the difference because it always looks the same.
Right, exactly.
Except for WrestleMania, which is, in a huge, football stadium.
Yeah, in the big stadium. But, yeah, there were times they held a couple NXT shows, a few episodes in Ohio, I think, and this was sometime last year, and the venue looked completely different, and I was like, man, that looked really cool. It was a nice refresher to get a venue that looked completely different, and it's just things like that. I was watching the Cruiserweight Classic, the first episode of that. The setup is completely different. The way it's shot and everything, it looked pretty cool. And I was like, oh, okay, it looks different. That's nice. And those kind of things like catch the eye right away. And if you're just looking at the same exact thing over and over and over again, you just kind of get desensitized to it, and it becomes monotonous.
It does, and that's the biggest problem with wrestling right now. Is I think that so much of it is the same of what we've already seen, and just more of the same. I mean, I'll be honest, I still don't watch WWE much. And the TNA I watch, sometimes they hit a home run and sometimes it's not as good. I'll be polite and say that. And, I don't know, I like watching Lucha Underground because it's a different approach. I like watching even ROH. I sat through the pay-per-view they did, the Best in the World, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That was an enjoyable watch. There were some dead spots on that show, but I enjoyed that too. I mean, Jay Lethal, damn, he's a stud.
Oh, he's great. The only problem with him right now is that I feel like he's beat everybody, so I'm kind of thinking, who's eventually going to beat him for the belt?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't expect him to lose that match against...
No, well, that was kind of the point where it was like, oh, they really don't have anybody else left for him because he's already beat Jay Briscoe.
What's his deal with Taylor Hendricks?
I don't know, and that's something I wish they would answer.
Like, if they're really dating,
Are
that's
they
cool.
fucking?
Yeah, it's exactly right. If they're dating, that's cool. Just say it.
Yeah.
I mean, are they trying to protect her to prevent the graphics like when AJ Lee and CM Punk started dating and they created the graphic that said about her being a wannabe Lita or whatever? I mean, are they trying to do that to avoid the comparisons to AJ Lee, or I don't know, but
I have no idea.
It just seems like
she
just walks behind him and there's no real rhyme or reason that she's there, and I don't know. That's my biggest problem with Ring of Honor, and we'll leave with this point because I didn't want to go too long tonight. They have this male mentality, and by no means misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not coming out as a rah-rah sisterhood Hillary Clinton supporter here. I'm none of those things. But
you're not supporting the new Ghostbusters movie?
No, actually, no, I'm not. And to their credit, the merchandising they've done for it all has a feel very similar to the Ghostbusters we grew up with.
Well, I mean, that's part of the manipulation of it. It's like, yeah, the nostalgia crowd will buy it. I bought Ecto Cooler. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I couldn't bring myself to buy it, but I thought, I had that 30 years ago. That's awesome. But,
yeah.
I am going to cave
I had
in.
the ending to the movie spoiled for me, so I was just kind of like, nope, we're good. I don't need to see it.
Well, they have out now they have out sets 1 through 5, and there's going to be like 10 sets total of the Real Ghostbusters cartoon show on DVD. So I'm going to pick those up. I'm going to pick at least one of them up and see if it.
You can probably stop it. You can stop at a certain point. You don't need the whole show. I think it's like the first 70 episodes or so are really good. That's like the good era before they changed everything.
I don't remember when they changed it. I don't. I think like most people, I seem to follow it until it really dropped off, and then that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember how it ended or anything, or if there even was an ending.
No, it was just kind of. There was no like real ending or anything like that. It was just kind of.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. At just some point, they changed a lot of things and ruined the show.
That happens.
Yep.
I fear that could be happening with the new incarnation of the Ninja Turtles cartoon show, because they did the end of the space stuff, and that's been it. And my kid was the biggest Turtles fan on the planet, and he's kind of pissed off. He's like, "Where's the new episode? You know, they left it there, and that's it." And he's right. They haven't.
Oh, sure. They're probably just working on the new season right now.
It's been 3 or 4 months though. They really gotta. You know, the kids have short memories.
That's true.
But back to my original point, and this will be the last point. Ring of Honor has this mentality of an all-boys show. And very rarely, except for Maria Kanellis when she was there with Micah Bennett, walking out and being there and being the eye candy of the show, they don't really incorporate the girls enough, and they do have a female roster, which most people don't even know.
The Women of Honor show.
Right, and they just had them on. They had, I don't even know some of the names, but Crazy Mary Dobson's there now. She's good. Veda Scott always was a talented performer. They got a lot of talented females. No dude at this stage wants to watch a show that has no chicks on it. And they really missed the boat with that. They missed it on the pay-per-view, and it's something that they got to – you don't have to segregate the shows.
Yeah.
They need to start incorporating female matches in there. And I think their female talent could live up to the expectation of the male talent. And I know that they have a high bar because those matches, some of them are comically long and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Was it like Adam Cole against some Japanese guy nobody ever heard of before for like 35 minutes? And it's like, I really don't care who wins this match, so why don't we, move on?
Yeah, Ring of Honor is kind of one of those places that has the mentality of every match has to try and steal the show. The problem is when you do that, nobody steals the show because nobody stands out because all the matches kind of look the same. So that's where a good booker can kind of like curtail certain things and save big matches for later or, do all sorts of things like that rather than just blowing your load on every single show.
I did like speaking of that, I did enjoy the Carino match in B.J. Whitmer Bloodfest. That was enjoyable for...
That was good, yeah.
Because it was different. It was, again, because it was different for a Ring of Honor show. That's not something you usually see in an ROH ring.
The rubbing alcohol just seemed really nasty to me. Like, that was something I'd never really seen before in wrestling. And that just seemed really, really brutal for some reason.
I hope that was water.
No, I'm sure it was fake. It had to have been.
Well, that would be brutal if it wasn't. So I sure as hell hope that was just water. But I didn't like the finish either. I didn't like where Kevin Sullivan pulled out the spike and hit Carino in the head with it. Then he stood up and took the exploder, which he took in the match, and kicked out at 1 count earlier in the match. It's like, okay, when you got hit in the head with a spike, you should have gone down like it was a goddamn gunshot. And that would have been
That's
it.
another one of those psychology things that a lot of guys don't get. Or maybe the bookers don't get it. I don't know.
And it doesn't have to be like it was a mystical gunshot. I'm just saying that the act of it should have been enough, be it a chair or whatever. That shot should have been the end of the match instead of him having to stumble around like a buffoon and take the finish again, which he already kicked out at 1, proving that it doesn't really mean a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, we've rambled enough.
Yay!
All right, dude. Well, I'll let you go. Is there anything you wanted to mention before I let you go?
No, I think we're good. Oh, one thing. Lucha Underground, you mentioned them earlier. Their season finale occurs next week. It's been a 3-part show, the Ultima Lucha Dos. The third and final part of the 2-hour finale. So check that out on the All-Right Network next week on Wednesday night. It's going to be great.
It is going to be great, and I've been watching them. I've also been watching Johnny Mundo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking on the shows. I'm talking behind the scenes. The dude is losing his mind. He's so excited for this stuff to air that he's actually starting to. I think he's lost his mind. So if you want to find him on social media, you'll see what I'm talking about. But he's really, really a rah-rah guy right now for Lucha Underground. That's for sure.
He found his passion again, which is good.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm happy for that.
I mean, this is a guy that we loved back in like 05, 06 or whatever, and we thought this is the guy. It was like they let him grow and develop. This is going to be the guy.
And they did let him. They let him grow and develop to a point, and then they said, "Well, that's that."
No more.
And, you're done. And then they squandered him, and ultimately he left. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you later. Thanks you again, and stay tuned for more from the interactive interview.
Hi, this is Jasmine St. Clair, and you're listening to me on the Interactive Interview.